It's no secret that Disney has been able to tell mature stories in the past. A lot of the things that I grew up with were Disney, so I definitely have a little bit of nostalgia glasses on for the older films. But I never really looked at how Disney was able to depict abusive parents in a fairly nuanced way for movies aimed at a child demographic. There are two movies that come to mind that I feel like where the central focus is on abusive parents and the character having to cope with their circumstances and ultimately grow as a character because of it. So let's start with Rapunzel. Born a princess, she was kidnapped by a woman trying to retain her youth through a magical flower. When the queen is ill and on the verge of death, the kingdom is on the hunt for a flower when a woman accidentally reveals its hiding spot. So she has to take desperate measures. When the child is born, she breaks in with the intent of cutting some of the child's hair to keep the flower's magic. But once she cuts it, the magic is gone, so this woman has to steal the baby. This is the origin story of a child sheltered from the rest of the world under the guise that she has an overprotective parent. The woman named Mother Gothel also does sell you on this mother that just wants to be protective of her child because of her personality and the way she comes off very jokingly yet authoritative with Rapunzel.
How you manage to do that every single day without fail. It looks absolutely exhausting, darling. And I don't know why it takes so long. Oh, darling, I'm just teasing.
But there is a darker, sinister side to Gothel. We see how, as a young child, Rapunzel asks why she can't go outside, and Gothel hides it behind the world being dangerous, which is a legitimate fear that a lot of parents have, but Gothel's intentions are to keep her from being spotted and keeping the flower to herself. We see that Rapunzel is overly optimistic despite the circumstances. Obviously, because this is a Disney movie, we can't get too dark, but I understand why she remains optimistic in the context of the film. Gothel gives Rapunzel enough distractions to hold her over until she's 18, but Rapunzel can't help wanting to leave the tower for her birthday to see the annual lanterns that go up every year. On some level, Rapunzel thinks that the lanterns are some coincidence, but I think she also hopes that they're special because it's on her birthday. Seeing those lanterns in the sky lighting up, hoping they have a deeper meaning. It's really sad when you look at this from that context. This little girl has nothing to look forward to, no friends, no freedom, and it's lanterns that keep her spirits up. At this moment, she thinks that Gothel is just overly protective, even if it may be suffocating. She thinks, my mom must really care about me and what happens to me if I go outside the bounds of this tower. It's depressing, honestly, knowing how many times Rapunzel has watched Gothel leave the tower and probably wondered why she couldn't go with her. It's probably something she never had the courage to ask about, though. Mother Knows Best is a truly haunting song because it is disguised as a mother trying to protect her daughter through all the fears that humans have for the outside world. When Rapunzel attempts to ask her about going outside again, you can see how Gothel is dodging her as if she knows what she's about to ask. Rapunzel rushes through their routine, and this clearly irritates Gothel. It's clear that Rapunzel's excited about asking her to finally go see the lanterns. Gothel knows that she can only use distractions for so long before Rapunzel starts becoming suspicious, which is why when she starts to ask about going to see the lanterns, Gothel starts distracting her again. We can see that she is subtly attempting to make Rapunzel seem as if she isn't ready for the real world. We know that she's hiding behind a mother that's just being overprotective, but she's just planting a seed of doubt in Rapunzel's head. She wants Rapunzel to fear everything and everyone outside of her. I also love that she says flower specifically. It also shows that she only sees Rapunzel through the essence of the flower. She doesn't really see Rapunzel as a person. She doesn't really care to. And in order for her to protect the fragile flower, she needs Rapunzel to believe the tower is the only safe place for her. She doesn't care about Rapunzel's safety really in the slightest. That's why she lists dangerous things, taking advantage of Rapunzel's naivete say about the world.
Lions, thugs, poison ivy, quicksand, cannibals and snakes, the plague.
She wants Rapunzel to be completely dependent on her, and the more she knows about the world, the more independent she will become, and Gothel is dependent on Rapunzel staying by her side. In this way, we can see the unhealthy codependency that Rapunzel and Gothel have with each other. I find this imagery very disturbing because, knowing the context, Gothel is literally talking to her hair, the magical entity within Rapunzel. I think that's what's so interesting about this relationship, is that Gothel acts as if she loves Rapunzel so much, but she really just doesn't. She doesn't care. She sees Rapunzel as an obstacle to the flower and not the baby that she raised all the way to adulthood. Gothel calls Rapunzel
Sloppy, underdressed, immature, clumsy, gullible, naive, positively grubby, ditzy, and a bit, well, vague. Plus, I believe, getting kind of chubby.
And as her mother, she should be doing whatever to make her daughter feel secure with herself as she's entering adulthood, but because she's sheltered her whole life, she is able to use these jabs at her personality and appearance as a way to keep her dependent on her without directly revealing herself to her. She can hide behind the fact that she is just a mother giving advice to her daughter, and it's clear that this is also a tactic to keep her daughter from going outside and gaining independence. If she loses Rapunzel, she loses the flower and her youth. The way she says,
I'm just saying 'cause I love you,
is very disturbing also because she uses a tone as if she's talking to her young baby, her child, the thing she loves most. But again, she's just using this as a facade to make Rapunzel feel more childish and at the same time more secure. After the song is nearly over, Gothel makes sure to get her true intentions across to Rapunzel. The whole song has this more positive vibe overall until we see how angry she is by Rapunzel's question.
Don't ever ask to leave this tower again.
Again, she hides this more authoritative tone behind her love for Rapunzel when she tells her that she loves her afterwards, but this was her way of threatening Rapunzel into silence and submission. Also, look at this scene that just proves how much of a narcissist she is.
I see a strong, confident, beautiful young lady. Oh, look, you're here too. I'm just teasing. Stop taking everything so seriously.
She hides behind a joke, trying to be the playful mother, but all these subtle lines are who Gothel truly is. She can't not notice how beautiful that she is, and she only pays attention to herself and only cares for herself. When Rapunzel is able to tie up Eugene, she wants to use this as a way to prove to her mother that she can do things on her own, but Gothel was really hoping that she just dropped the lanterns. She ends up yelling at Rapunzel, having had it with her bringing up the topic.
Enough of the lights, Rapunzel! You are not leaving this tower! Ever!
Rapunzel realizes she isn't getting through to her with this and then decides to lie to her, asking her to grab some things she needs for painting. This is when Rapunzel realizes that she's not getting through to her, so she makes up a lie asking Gothel to go grab her some supplies she needs for painting. This is all a way so she can get Gothel out of the way so she can strike a deal with Eugene to take her to see the lanterns. The When Will My Life Begin reprise is sad and cathartic of a moment. The start of the song has her asking herself if she should even leave the tower in the first place.
Look at the world so close and I'm halfway to it. Look at it all so big. Do I even dare?
That doubt is obviously instilled because of Gothel, but her determination pushes her forward.
Look at me, there at last. I just have to do it. Should I? No. Here I go.
The reprise of this song gives us the payoff of the beginning because she is finally experiencing her life beginning.
For like the first time ever, I'm completely free.
The lines of the song are powerful. This child never got to experience anything that children should, like playing around, running through the grass, splashing water, just doing all the things that humans take for granted.
Just smell the grass, the dirt, just like I dreamed they'd be.
When Gothel finds out that Rapunzel lied, she goes to track her down, finding her with Eugene. In her head, she's thinking she's never had male attention before. I can use this to get in her head. So when Rapunzel says that she thinks Eugene likes her, the mother immediately responds in shock, as if it would be such an impossibility.
Likes you please, Rapunzel, that's demented.
She calls her demented and tells her she's invented a romance in her head that isn't there,
Dear, this whole romance that you've invented.
gaslighting Rapunzel into thinking she isn't good enough and that Eugene wouldn't be attracted to her. She calls her naive.
You're too naive to be here.
Rapunzel refuses as her mother starts to lure her in with this song again. She's starting to catch on to what Gothel's doing, so Gothel's like, I've got to switch tactics. She starts insulting Rapunzel for finally making a decision for herself.
Rapunzel knows best. Rapunzel's so mature now. Such a clever grown-up miss.
Gothel can see that she's losing her grip on Rapunzel. She uses the crown as a way to get inside Rapunzel's head because she knows that Eugene wants the crown. That creates a doubt about his intentions as well.
Why would he like you? Come on now, really. Look at you. You think that he's impressed?
Rapunzel doesn't want to be proven wrong because she's developing feelings for Eugene, but also because she wants to prove that she can be independent and think for herself. Gothel tries to get her to come back with her by trying to make Rapunzel think the worst of Eugene.
Trust me, my dear, that's how fast he'll leave you. I won't say I told you so.
Gothel partly hopes that Rapunzel will go with her so she can have further control over her. So when Rapunzel rejects her to stay with him,
No. Oh, I see how it is.
you can hear the aggravation in Gothel's tone.
No, Rapunzel knows best. So if he's such a dreamboat, go and put him to the test.
Gothel knows that she'll have to manipulate the situation because she isn't 100% sure that she will be right. She sees the situation going decently from afar, and this concerns her because she's losing control over the flower, her last ticket to youth. She also uses the whole "don't come crying to me if he leaves you" tactic to get inside Rapunzel's head and make her daughter doubt herself. The reprise of the song is definitely more sinister in tone than the first time the song is sung, and this is partly because we can visually see Gothel losing grip on Rapunzel, meaning her desperation is also showing through the song. We see her visually that she's starting to age because she hasn't been able to get that fix. Rapunzel also looks like she's gotten in her head a little as she looks down at the crown. Gothel leaves her and Rapunzel hides the crown from Eugene for the time being. As she goes into the town and finally gets to experience normal things, you can see how much more freeing she is by being able to socialize with others. Gothel takes desperate measures to get Rapunzel back. She uses the two guys Eugene was traveling with to tie him up on a boat and make it look like he was leaving. Although Gothel had worked relentlessly to instill fear in Rapunzel, she knew that if she could take away the one thing on the outside that she trusted, then she could break her enough to come crawling back. Rapunzel runs crying into her mother's arms, and Gothel uses the moment to say how she told her so instead of comforting her.
I tried to warn you what was out there. The world is dark and selfish and cruel. If it finds even the slightest ray of sunshine, it destroys it.
When Rapunzel finally figures out that she was the lost princess, she finally stands up to Gothel, realizing that she had been intentionally keeping her from the outside world.
You were wrong about the world, and you were wrong about me. And I will never let you use my hair again!
Gothel is obsessed with retaining her youth to the point that she'll keep Rapunzel locked up for eternity.
You want me to be the bad guy? Fine. Now I'm the bad guy.
Getting her fix off of her forever. Her beauty and looks are all that matter to her because Gothel has nothing else. She is evil and narcissistic and seems to lack empathy. She doesn't have the ability to care for anything but herself. Her youth is the only thing that makes her feel special. It's vapid and shallow and deranged how far she'll go to keep her youth. When Eugene climbs the tower to rescue Rapunzel, Gothel stabs him in the stomach, taking away the thing Rapunzel loves the most. This way she kills along all the happy memories that Rapunzel had of the outside world.
Oh, don't worry, dear. Our secret will die with him.
After Rapunzel tries to save Eugene, he sacrifices himself to set her free and cuts her hair. Gothel ages rapidly as the flower dies with Rapunzel's hair. She is finally free of the shackles that Gothel had on her whole life. I find the relationship between Gothel and Rapunzel so interesting because Gothel ruthlessly does whatever it takes to keep Rapunzel bound to her, taking her free will away from her, damaging her self-esteem, taking advantage of her lack of knowledge of the outside world. She is manipulative to Rapunzel. Her whole life, Rapunzel has only had Gothel, and Gothel is able to hide the fact that she has no interest in Rapunzel as a person because she pretends to care about her well-being. To me, this is one of the more interesting relationships that Disney has done and has written because of the abusive parent aspect. At certain points, it can get a little dark with the manipulation that Gothel has over Rapunzel, and I think Disney does a good balancing act here of being able to depict that without being too dark. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, on the other hand, is pretty dark. I have grown a lot more appreciation for this movie as I have matured into adulthood. There are so many moments in this film that are really complex, so revisiting it as an adult you realize how dark this film really is, especially when you look at the relationship between Quasimodo and Frollo. Born with a monstrous face, Quasimodo is a kind, gentle man that has been convinced that he has nothing to offer the world because of his looks. Claude Frollo is a justice minister of Paris, meaning he's a man of God. He also seems to be a white nationalist, wanting to kill all of the gypsies. When Quasimodo's mother tries to outrun Frollo, he kills her on the steps of the church.
I am guiltless. She ran, I pursued.
He takes one look at Quasimodo and he's ready to kill this child, throwing him into a well.
This is an unholy demon. I'm sending it back to hell where it belongs.
This is like 5 minutes into the movie, Jesus Christ. Before he can dispose of the child, he is convinced to keep him because the eyes of God are watching and know what he's done to his mother. Of course, because Frollo is heavily religious, he's worried about eternity in hell. His reaction to taking in Quasimodo is so heartless.
I'm to be saddled with this misshapen, just so he's kept locked away where no one else can see.
The name that was given to Quasimodo was also out of malice, naming him something that means half-formed.
A name that means half-formed. Quasimodo.
It's incredibly sad. Years later, we see that Quasimodo lives in the bell tower with only gargoyles to talk to. Frollo comes in to check on him every so often, it seems, and test him on his knowledge, but you immediately see how Frollo seems to have zero emotional attachment to Quasimodo, and there's no really sense of familial bond at all.
Yes, Master. I would like that very much.
Very well. Can stone talk?
No, it can't.
That's right. You're a smart lad.
Like Rapunzel, Quasimodo has been sheltered from the world. He also dreams of living out there with everyone else.
All my life I memorize their faces, knowing them as they will never know me.
Out There is such a showcase of Quasimodo and Frollo's relationship, on top of the song being probably one of Disney's best. The song starts off sinister with the lyrics and tone as Frollo describes how the world will treat Quasimodo.
The world is cruel, the world is wicked.
Because it's the best way to gain his compliance. Both Frollo and Gothel don't care about how this will impact their child because they will be receiving positive things from it.
Even this foul creature may yet prove one day to be of use to me.
Although, for completely different reasons, Gothel and Frollo both shelter their child from the outside world for selfish gain, and not because they are worried about their well-being. In both songs Out There and Mother Knows Best, we see how Gothel and Frollo use the fact that they have taken care of their child as a justification for them to do what they say.
When your heartless mother abandoned you as a child, anyone else would have drowned you. I who keep you, teach you, feed you, dress you. I who look upon you without fear. Be faithful to me, grateful to me. And this is my thanks for taking you in and raising you as my son.
Like Gothel, Frollo uses tactics of planting seeds of doubt and insecurity in Quasimodo.
You are deformed.
I am deformed.
And you are ugly.
And I am ugly.
And these are crimes for which the world shows little pity. You you do not comprehend.
You are my one defender.
By saying this, Frollo is able to keep a hold over Quasimodo, who's already ashamed of how he looks. Quasimodo is thinking, wow, this man must care a lot about me to make sure that I don't get hurt by anyone.
You are good to me, master.
To him, it would make sense why Frollo would keep him in the bell tower because he knows how he looks.
Out there they'll revile you as a monster.
I am a monster.
Out there they will hate and scorn and
Only
jeer.
a monster.
He's aware that society fears things that are different and usually judges harshly on those who are different. He sees it as Frollo protecting him.
How can I protect you, boy, unless you always stay in here, away in here?
Which is why he doesn't push going out, because he doesn't want to disappoint the one that has accepted him. You can tell the relationship between Frollo and Quasimodo is cold, and this is on purpose. Frollo doesn't want to get any closer to Quasimodo than he needs to. He has him call him master instead of father because he has such little respect for him. Probably Frollo only cares about how he looks to everyone else and that he is a man of God, and he appears as a justice of the court. Frollo knows that Quasimodo won't stand up to him, so he makes statements like this.
It's I alone whom you can trust in this whole city. I am your only friend.
That make him feel as if he needs Frollo and no one else. In this way, it's like Frollo is saying, I'm the only one looking out for you, the only one that cares about you. Without me, you'd have no one. Frollo also knows that Quasimodo lacks confidence in himself, which is why he easily uses his appearance as a way to make him comply with whatever he says. He constantly brings up society as being the thing that Quasimodo must steer clear of. This is because Frollo is ashamed of him and his association to him. In Quasimodo's eyes, Frollo is the only human that is different and willing to see beyond his looks, but he's just as judgmental as the rest of the world. In Quasimodo's mind, when Frollo calls him a monster, it's because he's saying it for his own good, that he's preparing him for what's to come if he is to go to the outside world. Of course, Frollo's words make sense to Quasimodo because Frollo is his only human connection. Frollo is also able to frame it as if Quasimodo owes his entire life to Frollo. Frollo understands that Quasimodo wants to leave, but he also wants to maintain his status with the church, and he feels like Quasimodo would be a disruption to that. All Quasimodo wants is to stay in the good graces of his master, so of course he is afraid to do what he wants. Quasimodo isn't really able to make decisions for himself or to really have any independence at all. So when he actually truly has his own desires, he's afraid to express them to Frollo. If he stepped outside, it would be like a betrayal of their relationship. So Quasimodo complies even if he wants to leave. I love how this song has two different meanings. One from a darker side where Frollo is condemning the outside world and everything about it, so Quasimodo will be less tempted. While the other side of the song is sung from Quasimodo's side where everything out there is a new adventure he wants to be a part of. The outside world is beautiful to Quasimodo, even when Frollo warns him of how cruel everyone can be. Quasimodo's beautiful look on the world and the way he uses his skills in carving as a way to stay connected to it is really such a poetic thing to me. The words he uses to describe the world even after being told that he is a monster is so beautiful. I could never do the lyrics of this song justice. It's seriously Disney at its finest and most poetic. Quasimodo wants to go to the Festival of Fools. He's never been outside Notre Dame, and he's eventually convinced to go incognito to the festival by the gargoyles. Also, I want to mention how sad it is that he only has gargoyles to talk to. I know it's a Disney movie, but when you really think about it, it's really incredibly sad. Does it really look like Frollo and Quasimodo have ever had an emotional conversation, really? With Quasimodo, it feels like he has to try so hard just to get a little bit of praise from Frollo, if at all. When Quasimodo sneaks out, things seem to be going well for him at first, blending in, but he eventually gets spotted by Esmeralda, who thinks he's wearing a mask, which is really sad. Of course, he's smitten right when he meets her because she's so nice to him and inviting. Quasimodo eventually gets pulled on stage where he's revealed to everyone, and at first people are shocked, but then they start to cheer because he looks hideous and this is the Festival of Fools. So this is where everybody gets to be be a freak. And it's really sad because this is the moment where Quasimodo is in tears when everyone cheers for him just because he looks the way he does. Frollo is clearly angry when Quasimodo is spotted there. At first you think, what else could go wrong? The crowd loves him, but then someone throws a tomato at him and the crowd starts joining in on the humiliation. It's one of the hardest things to watch. I'm just shocked that Disney allowed this, honestly. They would never allow something like this in their modern films. Of course, Frollo just sits back and allows the cruelty. It's so horrible to watch.
In a moment, Captain. A lesson needs to be learned here.
Esmeralda goes up on stage and treats him with kindness, untying him and apologizing for pulling him up on stage. After she escapes Frollo, his reaction to Frollo is so sad as well as he walks back into the tower and everybody looks at him in fear and disgust.
I'm sorry, Master. I will never disobey you again.
After Esmeralda seeks sanctuary at the church, Quasimodo helps her escape. She tells him to go with her, but he rejects her, and that's the influence of Frollo. Especially after being tortured in public, he is even more hesitant to leave.
I'm a monster, you know.
He told you that?
Look at me. I'm never going back out there again. You saw what happened today. This is where I belong.
He believes he needs Frollo's guidance even more because he was proven wrong about society. Quasimodo and Rapunzel have both been restricted to a tower where they have very little connection to the outside world. Only the harsh words that their parents have told them. The only word they can go on is their captors. Why would they have any reason to question something that they say, or question someone that is trying to protect them? Esmeralda ends up being the motivation for Quasimodo in a sense.
What am I supposed to do? Go out there and rescue the girl from the jaws of death and the whole town will cheer like I'm some kind of a hero? She already has her knight in shining armor and it's not me.
To finally stand up to Frollo when he learns about what happened to his mother.
I should have known you'd risk your life to save that gypsy witch, just as your own mother died trying to save you.
What?
I'm going to do what I should have done 20 years ago!
And it's so cathartic of a character moment because he has learned that not everyone in the world is as horrible as what Frollo has told him.
Do you think I'm evil?
No, you were kind and good and...
And a gypsy. And maybe Frollo's wrong about the both of us.
Even though he went through that horrible experience during the festival, he still knows that there are beautiful things in the world, and the reason why people are afraid to be themselves are because of people like Frollo, who try to keep everyone in a line. He is finally able to free himself from Frollo and the hold he has on him.
All my life you have told me the world is a dark, cruel place, but now I see that the only thing dark and cruel about it is people like you.
Even though he is aware of how he looks, he'd rather experience the world and the pain that may come with it than remain with someone that never cared for him. The ending of the movie where Quasimodo is accepted is just as beautiful because it's all he's wanted, to be acknowledged by the people that don't know he exists. It's such a great way of showing a character being accepted, and he doesn't even end up with the girl, and I think that's also a great way to end it because again, it's about doing this for himself and not doing it for anybody else. Quasimodo was able to accept himself to be able to stand up to Frollo, and it's such a great way of showing a character being accepted. I always thought that Tangled and The Hunchback of Notre Dame had similar themes of abusive parental figures and are also both deprived of human experience. Frollo and Gothel are controlling and narcissistic and will do whatever it takes to get what they want, even if it comes at the cost of hurting their child. They both use manipulative tactics to keep Rapunzel and Quasimodo dependent on them and reluctant to leave their towers. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is definitely darker in nature, tackling a lot more controversial subjects like religion and also showing public humiliation and cruelty. However, I also think that Tangled shows an interesting codependent dynamic in Rapunzel and Gothel's relationship. Both films always stuck with me because of how mature they were in depicting these evil parental figures. Disney has never shied away from depicting more mature topics like this. I believe they can achieve great writing when they have people passionate to tell a story. They just need to find the right voices to tell it. Well, I've gone on for a while now. I think I've made my point very clear about these movies. I'd love to know what you think about these relationships in these films, and thanks for sticking it out to the end. I will see you in the next one.